Hello, everyone, and welcome back once more. Now, Jeremy and I are moving the wheel of the year on to Lammas. 1st of August, 1st, 2nd of August, the Festival of Transformation, the harvest time of first fruits. So what does all of that mean? Well, first and foremost, the bad news is, folks, it's the end of summer. Really, we're at the beginning of autumn.
Just lost half your audience.
We're really sorry about this, but energetically speaking, we are moving into autumn. And that is not welcome news for any of us. So I'm going to leave Jeremy to talk a little bit more about that. But why the festival? Let's think, why the Festival of Transformation? Well, this is the time where the flowers become the fruits. You know, the wheat and oats and barley and things, they produce the grain. And I mean, I live rurally, so you know, the local fields are ringing with the sounds of combine harvesters, and every time you go out, you're behind tractors with trailers full of grain or whatever it might be, hay or whatever. So you know, the harvest is well underway, and as I said, we've been planting seeds this year, we've been nurturing them, we've been watching things come to growth, and now we're beginning to get the benefits of them. But in that also is the fact that we need to look at what we've sown and look at what we're beginning to harvest and think, well, is this really what I want? And if it isn't quite the result that we were looking for, we need to be prepared to let go and shift ourselves into something that's more aligned to what we want. So there's actually quite a lot going on at this particular time. It's a very fruitful, very full time if you allow it to be. But just like when we're into full autumn, and we see the leaves falling and the ease and the grace with which trees do that, we need to be prepared at this point to let go of what's gone before and make sure that what we carry through into the autumn months is exactly what we want and exactly what we need. So it's a time of contemplation as well. And as I say, I mean, for me, it's like a hammer to the heart. The death of summer, even though potentially there's still some nice weather ahead of us. Energetically, we start to see the nights draw in. We start to feel that contraction of the energies coming in as we make our way towards the long dark days of winter. And I'm sorry to depress you. But it's part of the cycle, and we need to be in alignment with this cycle. So on that note, I shall pass you over to Jeremy.
On that happy note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that before we go into what this has to offer, the most important point, you sort of started to say it already, is that we have to let go of this idea of summer. That summer at the end of July is ending, but summer isn't about necessarily the weather or the heat or anything like that. It's an energetic body. It's all been about growth, and that has to change. And if what we do is hang on or cling on to this idea that summer's not ending, I'm still in this pattern of growth, I'm still doing this because I don't want summer to end, we then end up missing out on the opportunities that autumn has to offer us. Because by the time we accept the fact, and that word again, accept the fact that summer has ended, we are now well into autumn and the ripening period, and we really need to make the best use of that. Because we've noticed, we've talked about all of these before, these cycles are gentle. They move us through and they have a rhythm to them and a momentum to them. But we can disturb that for ourselves. It won't disturb anything for nature, but it can disturb it for ourselves if we then continue to cling on to something that has to move on. So yes, the end of July is the end of summer, that period of growth, and we begin with the 1st of August, the ripening. But as we look around us in nature, the sun changes its pattern because it is not about growth, it is about ripening. So we'll still get the potential weather, the things that we sort of associate with summer. But if you're actually tuning in, you'll notice there's a shift in what the sun is actually giving to us and how it's giving it to us, because it is about, as you said, that growth turning into how things are ripening. And I always say that you can really feel from the beginning of August a shift in the air.
Yeah.
Something changes in the air that notes that it's moved on. And we have to work with that. We have to let go of growth and embrace the ripening, the harvesting, the reaping of everything that we've put together, and give us those full 3 months. Because, you know, we're talking about the beginning of August, but that's not, August is not all of autumn. We've got 3 months to work with this.
Yes.
And that gives us time to make that full adjustment, those full changes, as you said, to bring us fully into that ripening and reaping period all around us.
I think you notice it. I mean, if you're a gardener, you notice it. I mean, that the sort of from Beltane, from the beginning of summer, 1st of May forwards, you see in the garden that absolute rush of energy. All of a sudden, everything comes to life, you know, and it's all, as Jeremy said, it's all about growth. It's growth and it's flowers and it's, you know, it's just beautiful. From this point, all of that slows right down. And there isn't growth in the same way, and there isn't this sense of abundance in the same way, because it's about now, it's about all of that energy that's gone into that. It's about focusing it and transforming it into something that can be carried forwards, into setting the seed for next year so that life can be carried forwards.
Absolutely. And you look, when you're going out on your walks, you look at the green of the trees now, it's heavy, it's a dark green, it's saturated. And that's where we get to at this point of the year, because things will change. But it's also about what that green signifies is the ripening that needs to go on. This, you know, everything those leaves have taken in over the whole period of growth, they're now full of everything. And
it's all being fed back into the core, isn't it?
And to move it into ripening, it doesn't need to grow in the same way that it was before, the opening and the embracing of everything that's around. It now needs to refocus that into the delivery of the seed for the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, I do become very aware at this time of year when, you know, just contemplating what Jeremy's been saying, that we live in a very off-balance society, because you know, the whole model of everything around us is about growth, continual growth. You know, businesses have to get bigger and bigger and bigger. You have to earn ever more money. You have to, you know, it's all about increasing, but there's never that point of stopping and acknowledging that the cycle is about increase and decrease. You know, there's a rhythm and a pulse to it, and we're kind of fed this expectation and conditioned into this idea of it's all onwards and upwards. There's never any stopping, never any pausing, maybe never any backwards step or reorienting or anything like this. So yeah, I mean, it's not a particularly healthy way that our society, the expectations our society has about the way things will go. It's certainly not aligned to natural rhythms at any level.
No, and it means that if our preoccupation is just with growth, we never allow the cycle to transform things. And so what you end up doing is just to grow the same thing and just keep trying to push and push and push. Whereas actually, this time of year, like you have said, we are looking to transform what we've worked on this year into something. Something to reach a flourishing, something to reach an end of a stage. And it doesn't mean when we talk about this that, you know, a project has to completely come to an end. It might be a phase, a stage, something in our own growth reaches a culmination point, it's not an ending, but it is necessary to land that growth. And that's really what we're talking about. How do we land that period of growth in a way that gives us a staging post to take it on ever more, ever better? How do we reflect back on where that now should take us and what we do if all we're doing is pushing one direction, one thing all the time? It's got to be this. I've got this vision. This is where I'm going. And I'm just going to try and keep growing, 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 growing. There's such an opportunity for that to be taken into a better direction. One of the key points for this time of year is looking for the path of least resistance. And so when we talk about just growing throughout the whole year, whether you are meeting resistance or not, so you're trying to just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. When you step back from that and you're looking at bringing something to a place of culmination, you start to look at, well, where is the flow? Where is the path of least resistance? And that might lead you into a better but completely different area that you thought it was going to.
Yeah.
But that will set the seed, or that will set the motion for you to grow it on again in a much more healthy and a much more successful manner than just pushing on through.
Yeah. You know, these are gateways, particularly these the cross quarter days, which this particular festival is one of the cross quarter days. The solstices and equinoxes are the fixed points, but the cross quarter days are gateways into the next season, and there's a flowing. The energy, you know, flows from one type of energy into the next, and there's a magic in that.
Yeah.
If you're aware and you're sensitive and you're tuned into it, there's a magic in that moment of change. You know, feel it in yourself, feel it in the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially at the moment, you'll be really, I'm beginning to feel things really coming to the surface, ready to transform within me and around me as well. And I'm, you know, sort of day on day, I'm noticing, and oh, like another little strand of something.
Yeah.
And even before we reach that, there is a time to start to make these things conscious. What is it that I want to be transforming? What has been going on? What is coming to the surface? What can I see that I've been working with and working on that I want to lay out there to transform? And that's an important part of this. It's why we do these talks this time, because there is that little heads up to just be gently thinking, well, what is coming to the surface at the moment that I need to lay that down?
Yeah, and the energy is much more mutable at these times as well. There's what, you know, so it is the time to shift and change direction if that's what needed, to maybe rethink some plans, to just give them a tweak, because actually it can be better, or it can be more, or it can take you in a more aligned direction, because now you're partway into something or partway through something. You can feel where maybe the energy isn't as flowing as it should be. So yeah, that, you know, the gateways are heads up. They're moments of pause, moments of consideration and reflection before we continue on with the journey.
And it's also a point, we talked about release and this tweaking, changing, but it's to release the idea that you have a fixed point of transformational fruition, because it might be that actually something better is a given opportunity for you. And so this idea of release, yes, we're releasing these projects almost into the wider world. We're sort of handing them over, as we've been doing a little bit of that in July as well. But we release the idea of what that set vision has to end up like. I need it to get to this stage. Because in that releasing, we open up the opportunity that we may have that may be where we go, but also it might be something better or something slightly different. And that difference can mean a huge amount where we take it next, or what happens to it next. Whereas we have governed that has to be, I will only accept a transformation at this point of this thing, this way. That's not how nature's working. We need the vision, something to grow towards, something to work towards, something to feel the flow, exactly as you've said. Is it flowing? Is it not? Am I feeling resistance? Why am I feeling that? But when it comes to the autumn, releasing the idea of an eventual outcome, a fixed outcome, allows nature, allows the universe to really gift us something more and in a different way.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about release going throughout the whole of the year, but each of those different types of release are doing a different job and a different function for us. Whether it be releasing negative patterns, which we were doing earlier in the year, releasing energy to drive ourselves forward, which we've just been doing. This is releasing that fixed vision or that fixed end point that we think we want and allowing it to be more mutable.
Yeah, and it is also the beginning of beginning to muster our resources for the long hibernation months ahead. You know, we need to fill the store cupboards. We need to make sure we've got what we need to get us through the long dark months. And that isn't quite the imperative that it used to be in the past with us, our supermarkets and our food flown in all year round. You know, things like this. We don't know how easy we've got it. But, you know, again, energetically, we have to muster our energy and our resources. You know, this is the time where, from a health point of view, you know, your body needs to put the vitamin D in the store cupboard of the liver. Because in another few weeks, in 6 weeks' time, when we hit the autumn equinox, the sun is going to be at such an angle in the sky that our skin won't be able to do that magical transformation that it does, even on a sunny day. So, you know, again, without wishing to put a note of urgency into it, there are things we need to do and things we need to attend to. Just having a thought ahead for what comes next in the cycle and what we need, what our bodies need, what our mental, emotional well-being needs, what our spiritual well-being needs to meet what comes next within this cycle.
And that's why, I mean, we've been talking about the whole of autumn, but specifically looking at August and what August has to offer us. One of the key things is for us to spend time understanding what nourishes us. The word is nourishment. Where do we get our nourishment from? Well, part of some of that is having to put stuff in a store cupboard, but it's this time of year that we can spend time reflecting on what nourishes me.
Yeah. And what recharges me, because you need to, when we get into full autumn, you know, driving towards winter, we need our stamina. We need our you know, our bodies to be as strong as they can be to meet the challenge of the winter months. If we get to the end of the summer, this point in the summer, and we're absolutely exhausted, there's nothing left. You know, and we're crawling along. We're not in a good place to meet what comes next. So you know, I mean, traditionally this is the time that kids are on holiday. Well, I mean, that always came about because kids were needed for the harvest. It was a very practical reason that the summer holidays came at this time and not in what we would call proper summer itself. And it is often, you know, it's the sort of long, lazy days of summer. This is the time. Often, you know, August brings us some of the best weather, the best heat, the best sun. I mean, some of the patterns have been somewhat mixed up lately, but that was always the expectation. And that was, you know, the time to go and lie in the fields on your back and look at the sky and just contemplate life and relax and rest.
Yeah.
So once, you know, the first fruits have been brought in, enjoy. Just enjoy you know, the fruits of that labor.
Yeah, and one of these ideas of nourishment is that we shouldn't just be refilling a tank.
Yeah.
The idea of nourishment is that all parts of our cells feel nourished. And that isn't just about, oh, I've been feeling really tired and I'm completely empty and I need to refill myself. That's not true nourishment. This is the opportunity to really understand what feeds me.
Mm.
To look at all aspects of that. If it is being in nature, if it is whatever it is that you know really feeds you, to reflect on how that's changed now. What do I need now as the person I am now? Because the transformation happens to us entirely.
Mm.
And we should say, I mean, that's one of the key themes of August as well, is transformation.
Yeah.
And transformation will happen to you whether you acknowledge it or seek it out or work with it. But it will be uncomfortable and unsettling if you're not actually being aware and working with it more. It's that flow and that shift and that change. When we resist it, it happens anyway, because we are nature, it is happening in nature, it's part of us. So whether you're there or not, but how that happens, how that unfolds, how that happens for you and for the benefit of you, if you're working and understanding it, then you can reap all the benefit that it has to offer, rather than feeling unsettled, unsure, reluctant, whatever those are. But
Mm.
this idea of transformation, this idea of nourishment, means that we are changing. After everything we've gone through for the winter, the spring, the summer, we're coming to the end of the cycle. And so we are being transformed, and we now need to work with who we are now, not who we were at this point last year. So check in with what still nourishes you. Don't just assume that what you were working with last year is what you still need to do it. Feel into where you're drawn to seek nourishment from, groups of friends, groups of different environments, and see whether that still resonates for you, because this is the easiest time of the year to find, adjust, and make those shifts and changes now.
And think of it, I mean, we tend to think of the wheel of the year as being a closed loop system, but really this whole process, particularly at a spiritual level, is a spiral.
Yeah.
It should be, you know, so we're at that point of transformation that will carry us into the next upward swing of the cycle, and the next upward swing, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, it is about transforming into being something more for the next cycle and something more for the one after that. It's not a closed room. It's not just running round and round and round in the same circle like a hamster on a wheel.
And the third theme of August is elevation, because this is the point in August where we are elevated up, where we do begin that cycle. As we're coming to an end, what happens is that cycle continues up before we start the next cycle. And so it really is about allowing ourselves to be elevated up to the next level of how we're working, which is why we transform things, why things come to a place of fruition, they come to an ending in some form, because in doing that, we are elevated. We adopt that across our whole being.
Yeah.
And that, again, is a really important part of why we celebrate this solar festival, why we do that, because it really feels like you are being elevated, lifted up, transformed into something else. We mentioned about it being the grain, and the really good analogy for people is, because it's all about that making of bread, taking a form, making it into something else, adding heat, adding the fire to it, and it transforms it into something nourishing, something else. There's all those key themes: nourishment, elevation, transformation.
Yeah.
In that sort of
and of course we have, you know, really at the beginning, as we move into this month, we've got Lionsgate, the 8/8, which is always a very powerful portal point of the year. And again, if you understand how to know, you know how to work with those energies, how to feel into them, that will help. That will really give you a boost forward in the transformation, in the elevation process. So the energies are there every year to really help you if you're aligned to the process, shall we say. So many you know are totally unaware, but it is, as I've said so many times before, it's a flabby muscle we need to retone, basically, our sensitivity to this.
Yeah.
And let's just finish up by talking about one or two things that we can maybe do to mark this point, apart from going out and gathering the berries and making jam and, you know, all of these wonderful things that, yeah, you know, I love doing things like that. I make so much jam and give so much of it away, but it really anchors you.
Yeah, it does.
It anchors you in the moment of the season. But I mean, Jeremy, you mentioned another one there, making bread.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, part of, if you want to celebrate this festival, yeah, make some bread, watch that again, just be really hooked into that. And you know, these are fire festivals, aren't they? They're called solar festivals, fire festivals. So yes, if you've got the space, you know, always have a fire and you,
Find some form of fire. I mean, you know, even if it's just candles or something, because, you know, we can use different tools, but this time of year can sometimes be associated with the phoenix energy because of that transformation. So if you can get a number of candles, I normally sort of say if you can find 3, just because that 3 is a really significant number, to be able to light those to each of the things that you're looking to transform, and then sit within that energy and bring in that phoenix energy, that transformational energy at this point in time, so that you see that rising out of the flames. So that elevation comes in there, absolutely everything to do with the transformation is in there as well, and giving that a voice. What is it I want to transform? What is it I'm looking to bring to fruition in this time as well?
and of course, fire cleanses and purifies, so you can use it to let go of what's not working as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe write it down, burn it, or just see it following the smoke upwards.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
The
Offer,
other
offer
thing,
it to the flame.
the other thing is the tree of the month is the sweet chestnut. If you can find yourself a sweet chestnut, and they are all about helping us bring nourishment into our lives.
Yeah.
To understand what nourishes us, to understand where we are resistant to being nourished in a way that we should and we need to be, because each of that is individual to us as a person, and to help us to actually change and rebalance that in our lives. So if you can find a sweet chestnut, then they are the most glorious tree in August to be able to find and bring to yourselves.
Yeah, you'll start to fight the squirrels for that.
Very true. The
Oh,
harvest,
the
well, already
squirrels
gone by
are
the
very,
time.
very busy. Yes, I've got 1 or 2 sweet chestnuts around here. My God, they're already at it. Yes.
Yeah. But the leaf shapes, the leaves, the colors, the bark, everything feels very nourishing to be associated with the sweet chestnut. So I would definitely go off and find yourself one of those as well. But one of the other things to think about at this time as we go into it is about our own visibility in the world.
Mm.
This is a time to also to become more visible and to understand what visibility is for you within the world that we exist, and how you navigate that idea of visibility. Because it's really important to be seen in the world as we now are and who we now are. Because we've gone through a huge period of growth. And so maybe around this time of year, how we celebrate that is to actually see yourself truly in the light of who you now are, and how you work, and what you want to be bringing into this world.
Yeah, you know, it's almost a reinvention of yourself at some level, and other people's perception of you can keep you very, very stuck if you're not really kind of tuned into this. We change, we should change, but often people have a very fixed, you know, I met you 10 years ago and you were like this, and and they try, you know, that just energetically it can become a trap.
Yeah.
That other people don't update their program, as it were. So, you know, maybe a little gentle encouragement in helping support you in the constant transforming, as you support your friends and family to be the best that they're capable of being.
And that's why when you said quite rightly that it is a spiral, that spiral encourages change, encourages to grow, encourages to keep moving on and moving forward. And therefore, this is the time of year where we re-meet ourselves again now, after that period of growth, because that also informs us about where we're going, what visions we have, what we're trying to bring to some sort of fruition, what we want to see transform. All of those come in at this time of year. So we bring them in at the beginning of the autumn period. So by the time we get to the end of the autumn period, or even the midpoint in the next 6 weeks, we have a much better idea about where all that is going and how it's still working for us. And so we celebrate the beginning of that at the beginning of August, the 1st, 2nd of August. We launch it, if you like, and whatever feels right for you to feel you're launching yourself into ceremony. The other thing is to really mark the end of summer and to welcome in what autumn has to offer us. So finding a way of being within nature that acknowledges that you accept the end of summer and to celebrate the new season coming in. That can be, again, by the lighted candles, but I tend to do that with the incense. If you are doing an incense ceremony, finding an incense that really feels like it has that autumn quality about it, and lighting that and having that all around you so that you accept and acknowledge the period of growth is done, the period of ripening, the reaping of transforming is with me, and I accept it fully.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Jeremy. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is the moment where growth slows down and we start to reap the rewards of our efforts. So enjoy and celebrate it in whichever way you choose. And we'll be back again in 6 weeks' time.
You're busy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.